For those familiar with IB jargon, recently I was a risk taker and I asked if I could interview George Couros, and he said yes.
When I never feel bad, come on, yeah.
You could spend your life playing it safe and not take a chance and not potentially embarrass or humiliate yourself. But I'm old enough now not to care anymore. So for those who don't know who George Couros is, he is an educator, he's an administrator, he was a teacher, but he is pushing other educators to think outside the box and to take the time to reflect on your practices and to up your game, up your teaching and education game. So he agreed and sat down with me for a interview, chat, discussion, and well, enough said. Roll the tape.
First of all, I want to thank you for doing this because, I said to myself, if I don't ask, so you have to get used to like what's the worst that can happen.
So I don't know if you're recording this, but it's funny because you reminded me. I actually wrote a blog post. I think it was like, I don't know if you read my blog. It was like
I do.
That is something, or maybe it was actually no. It was on my email list, and I shared basically my mom instilled into me always ask, because it's better to hear no than to wonder.
Yep.
Yeah. So like that's something that I live by, and if I can make it happen, I'll make it happen, right? I love talking with people all over. So.
That is awesome. Thank you, George Couros, for coming onto my channel, as modest as it is, and being interviewed by me, Madame la Prof. Although my name appears at the bottom, so and most of my viewership, it's either my students or my friends. So there we go. And I started doing this. I don't want to call it a regular feature on my channel, to interview people who have either an impact on YouTube or in a different field, in a different area of life, and talk about their experiences in education as a student and their path. So let's start at the beginning. How were you as a student, George Couros, innovator?
Yeah.
Were you born innovating?
No, absolutely not. I was actually, so there's two versions of that, right? So there's the kindergarten grade 8 version, which was the nicest, kid, did everything my teacher asked. I think I started getting a little bit rebellious in grade 7 and 8. But yeah, like I was a really strong math student, loved math, loved, I still actually, Mrs. Sloan, my grade 5 teacher, I actually did a report on Brazil. I still remember this. I did a report on Brazil, and I did 40 pages in grade 5. Like, and then like there was pictures and stuff like that too. It was like probably double. But it was like, I always wanted to go to Brazil because of grade 5 Miss Sloan, right? And then grade 9 to 12, I was like terror. I was just the biggest pain. I actually think that my wit was developed as an adult in grade 9 and has just kind of stuck there. Like I was a little bit too witty for my own good.
Name me a grade 9 student who doesn't practice his or her wit in grade 9.
I get it. And yeah, actually, I remember it's actually famous that I was in a class, and I remember this. I was in a class, and I was really upsetting the teacher, and she said, "You need to go to the office." I'm like, "I will not go to the office." She's like, "You have to go to the office." I'm like, "No, I'm not going." And then she said, "George, you're going to go right now." And then I said, "I will go. And I'm going to tell them how you are. And I'm going to tell them how you treat me in this class." She's like, "George, sit back down." And I said, "No, I am going to the office." She's like, "George, sit down right now." I said, "Okay, I will. But if you push this, I'm going to the office." She's like, "Do not go to the office." And my friends are like, "Did you just actually get unsent to the office? Like, did that just happen?" And I just remember it. Like, we still talk about that to this day. Cause like, there was just, I was a little bit of a troublemaker. And I think that the classrooms where I was okay, they knew that about me. They'd, go back and forth with me, a little bit of humor, and they understood it, and I felt comfortable. But this for me, like I started struggling with some of my academics in that grade, and what I didn't understand then, and I totally get now, is like, hey, I'm gonna be the class clown because I do not want to look stupid, right? So I will get kicked out of class. I'll get in trouble, and then no one's gonna know I don't actually understand what's going on in science right now, right? Because they're just gonna think that guy's funny, right? So that for me, yeah, like but for me, it's one of the reasons I focus on relationships. The beautiful thing about this is I was such a bad kid in high school that when I became a principal, there was like nothing a kid did that I was like, wow, I can't believe you did that. Because I'm like, that's it? That's all you did? Right? Like I was
Let me tell you about what I did.
Yeah, exactly. I remember there's actually this kid in there's a kid in my school. He could get under teacher skin, and I remember this. And one of the teachers said, "He is driving me crazy. Like, can you help?" I said, "Just send him down to my office. I got you." And so she sent him down to my office. I said, "Hey, can you just sit there at the table? I need you to just do your work. I got some stuff I got to do. I'll talk to you in a second. Just do your work." He's like, all right. So like, didn't like, hey, don't bother teachers or anything like that, because I knew that kid didn't care. That kid did not respond to that. And I like connect with this kid all the time. And so while I'm doing work, I'm like, hey, I'm going to play a little bit of music. Is that okay? He's like, yeah, no problem. So I actually Google like polka music on YouTube. So I find this polka music and it's terrible, just terrible. And I don't know it. And I just start playing and I start like clapping. And he's like, Mr. Couros, this sucks. I'm like, you don't like polka? Are you kidding me? You don't like polka? And he's like, this is terrible. So I'm like, no, this is the best. And so I turn it up. And so I'm just like, doing this. He's like, Mr. Couros, I am trying to work, right? I'm trying to work. I said, do you know what polka music is to you? It's how you are to the teachers. You are polka music to them. If you have to come back here, it's going to be polka music for the whole entire day. And he's like, Mr. Couros, I will never bother. And he never got sent back to the office because he's like, I do not want to go through that. And he knew I was messing with him. He knew I was joking around, but that's how he responded. That's how he did it. And he was not like a malicious kid. He knew how to press your buttons, but he knew I also knew how to press buttons. And he knew I could respond with them. And it's just like kind of doing this, like we had conversations and stuff like that after, obviously. And, conversation with the teacher, but that took knowing the kid to respond to him that way. That took being in the hallways all the time as a principal, just sitting down, connecting with kids and building that where they didn't want you to be disappointed in you. They could handle you being mad, but disappointment was like a different level, right? Yeah. And that took relationships. And I understood a lot of this because I struggled as a kid, because I was always sent to the office. And one last thing I'll share to you. I was a troublemaker. I used to get in fights with my teachers, and I used to get sent to the office all the time. And my principal at the time, when I was in high school, became a superintendent, and I was actually speaking at a conference, and he's at the conference, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, this guy knows everything. Like, he knows. So I just went up to him. I'm like, I didn't even say hello. I just said, I'm sorry. Like, what are you sorry for? He's like, you were hilarious. Like, you were an awesome kid. And like, kind of like what we think is a bad kid, he's whatever. He's probably annoyed and stuff like that. I probably think so funny. And he said something to me that I will never forget. He goes, do you remember when you got in a fight with that science teacher? I said, I do. He said, you were right. I was like, I knew it, but he couldn't admit it because I'm a kid and like, he's got to back up the teacher. I was like, I knew it. I knew I was right. And it was just amazing to actually hear that from him. And just like, when we think we're at our worst, some of our teachers are just kind of laughing, and it's like, they've probably seen it time and time. So yeah, as a kid, I could have been an angel. I could have been the devil, depended on the day.
You mentioned that you were the kind of kid who was pushing buttons, but was there one teacher in your high school experience, not that you didn't want to push buttons because you were afraid or whatever, but there was a relationship and you weren't overtly looking to push buttons?
Oh yeah, it was actually probably, and it's interesting, I still have contact with him. It was my phys ed teacher, football coach. His name, not even kidding, is Calvin Hobbs, right?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Calvin Hobbs. And yeah, he was brand new, not brand new, he was like maybe second, third year. And he came into the high school my grade 12 year. And where I grew up in Hamilton, Saskatchewan, right? And, big sports town. Obviously, people know the Broncos in Canada. And I played football. So I was a really big kid. So I played football on the senior team in grade 9, which is not really normal. Yeah. So I was like, I didn't play, but I was on the team because I was so big. And I played grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 ecoms. So I'm very rare in the sense that I'm a 4-year veteran playing football. Probably there was 2 other kids that played 4 years. There's me and one other guy. And he came there and I met him on the first day. He hadn't even started teaching. And I said, hey, like, it's great to have you here. I'm so excited for you to coach your team this year. I just want to let you know that I've actually been playing for 4 years. And so I should probably be captain. I should be one of the captains because it's really important. Like, I've been here 4 years. He's like, is that right? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, so, it's probably a smart move. Like, if you want the respect of the team, you'll make me a captain. Like, I was pretty confident, cocky, arrogant, all of those combined. And we actually had practice all week. And I was like, I don't think he's going to make me captain. Like, I don't think he's liking me. And he pushed me and he pushed me and he pushed me. And no matter how hard he pushed me, I always gave it my best. And he knew people looked up to me. And so football, there's usually multiple captains. So I think we had 5 captains that year. So he's like, hey, we're going to announce a captain. So of course he names 4 captains and there's no mention of me. And then he says me. And he pulled me aside. He goes, don't ever expect, because you put years into something, you are guaranteed anything. You have to earn it, right? And I'm going to be honest with you, I was thinking, I don't care what you say. I'm the captain now. Like, I don't care. I'm captain. You can give me all your little life lessons. I don't care. I just wanted to be captain, right?
And amusingly, you talk about success and getting what you want and the appearance of success and the iceberg and what's underneath. And I think, and I mean, even though you were promoted as captain, it's one of those things that makes you who you are.
Well, I try to be, and I think I was having some conversations about that because I just posted that actually today. And there's obviously things that people have that I don't have that makes them successful, right? That maybe I can never attain for whatever, right? Like, I'm not going to be like, I would love to play basketball and it would have really benefited me to be 6'8", but that didn't happen, right? Yeah. So can I learn from those people, even though they have advantages, and we have advantages in different facets of our life. And I think it's something you actually have to teach kids that, like, hey, maybe this person has certain advantages that you will never have. That sucks and whatever. And I understand that. What can you learn from them? What things did you actually learn? Like, if you even think about something like investing money, it's way easier to make money if you have money. But having money doesn't mean that you'll actually make money if you just put it into a bank and get 0.0001% interest on savings account. You actually have to know how to do certain things. And so it is a lot of time to figure those things out. And like that, he basically said to me, like, hey, what I saw was if you were a vet, you got that captainship. But what I didn't realize was being a person worth following. And that takes time, that takes work. And I did the things that he needed me to do to get to that point. And I always think about that when I think about maybe I didn't get this job. What could I have done better? What could I have, hey, I got this job. What did I do to be successful? How do I actually recreate those things? And he was, for me, and it's kind of something that still sticks to me to this day, he just told me like it is. He was straight with me. He wasn't worried about me being, he knew, and he wasn't like that with every person. He knew how I was, and he knew what I could handle. And I really appreciate that because I think it's really nice to be able to just have a straight up conversation with somebody And one of the things I really benefit of education is having an older brother who's a brilliant educator, who doesn't do compliment sandwiches to me. He just says that's stupid, right? Like he just tells me that straight up, and I'm like, okay, all right, okay, I got you. Okay, it's stupid. I got you. You don't have to say it 14 times, right? Where it's like, hey, I really appreciated you did this, and like, did you think about this? But I also love this, right? He doesn't do those first two. He just does that right there.
Yeah.
And it's like
straight to the point.
Yeah, and I actually I remember with an administrator. You ever I think anyone who's been in education long enough has probably had an administrator who wants you to do something, but they want you to come to the conclusion, and so they build all this stuff around you so that you're like, hey, maybe I should do this. And you're like, oh, that's a great idea. It was yours the entire time, right? So I remember my one administrator who didn't know me that well, and she's still my favorite administrator. She was doing this. I said, hey, just tell me what you need. I got you. Like whatever you need, I will do anything for you. I'm so grateful for you. You don't need to do that with me. Just tell me what you need. I'll get it done. Right. Because she was awesome. And that's like, for me, that was really, I appreciate it. And that's how, the coach, because I actually find that sometimes when you spend 30 minutes to get me to your conclusion when you could have just told me in 30 seconds, you kind of wasted my time that I could have probably done the thing in the 30 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's interesting because he's still like, him and I still talk. Right. And it's like, geez, I don't even want to think. 28? No, is it 28? Oh boy. Yeah. It's like 28 years ago. I was in high school that, I first met him, and we still.
I suck at math. I'm trying to calculate, and I'm failing.
No, it's 28 years ago. I'm 46 now, so graduated when I was 18. Yeah. He's great. I looked up to him.
So you were making references and talking about the success that a person goes through, whether they get a job, fail at a job, and what they learn from it. What did young George Couros want to be when he was that eager football captain in high school?
Yeah. Well, I kind of mentioned it. I wanted to be a basketball player more than anything.
Yeah.
I really wanted to be involved in sports. Basketball is still my love. If you follow me anywhere, I talk about basketball all the time. Like I have like an obsession with basketball shoes, basketball. Like it's a big thing for me. And part of it is because I actually felt that a lot of the things that I do to this day, like I learned from my coaches. I apply like how to work with other people, how to lead, how to deal with adversity, things like that, right? But I actually, probably my first job, as a teacher, I took it. I was grade 4 and I loved working with younger students, but they offered me, said, you can teach elementary, but we need a high school basketball coach. I'm like, yeah.
But what made you say, I'm going to go into teaching? You, the kid who was pushing buttons in high school. What made you say, I'm going to go into teaching?
So weirdly enough, it's when I saw the movie Bill. I'm not even kidding. It's when I saw Billy Madison. I'm like, that looks fun. Yeah. So I actually decided I wanted to be like, I wanted to teach kindergarten, which is literally the only grade I've never taught. I've never taught kindergarten.
Okay.
So I've taught grade 1 to 12. I actually had a kindergarten interview for my first interview, and weirdly enough, they hired me to teach high school technology. That's a whole other story. But it just happened that way. And I just said, being around kids is great. Like the one thing there's a lot of people when they talk about education, they're like, when I was 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I'm like, no, that's not me. Right. It was like, maybe I'll be a teacher. That's fine. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but that being
did your
said,
older brother, did Alec influence you
Alec
at
went
all?
into teaching. Right. And I thought if he can do it, anyway, right. No.
That sounds exactly like what happened between my sister and me. It's like, okay, Isabel did this. Yeah, I'm doing that. No problem. No problem.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I really like, he went into teach high school right away. And I had no interest in working with high school, none at all, which is weird because that was my first job, was teaching high school. I always loved working with younger kids. Like I actually have not even thought about this until right now. One of my favorite things I did in elementary school was I was in grade 8, we were buddies. We had like the kindergarten buddy. And in grade 7, we were the grade 1 buddy. And that was like probably one of my favorite times, was just hanging out with those young kids, and, you know, probably corrupting them a little bit the way my brothers corrupted me, you know, trying to get them in trouble and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I like this. I really enjoyed working with, you know, kids. And I just kind of felt like, yeah, do I really, like, I remember actually, and I felt like this, one of my grade 4 students, he he graduated high school. So he's my first like full year class. So probably about 10 years after I taught him, he messages me on Facebook and he said, I got to just ask you something. And I'm not trying to offend you. I just got to ask you this. You went to school from kindergarten, grade 12. Then you went to college. And you did that, you said, for 6 years. And you did all of that so you could go back to school? And I just like remember him saying that. I'm like, yeah, what? Why would I do that? Right? Because it's like, yeah, like you do things to like get out of school, not to go back to it. And that's how I saw it. And that's how I saw it too. It's like, I'm doing everything not to be involved with school anymore. But yeah, like I actually got into it. I really love coaching. And I've been very honest about this. I didn't love teaching I really love working with kids, and I really liked it in the beginning. I started kind of like, I'm not really into this. I'm not like, you know what, this is not for me. And then I just luckily got a job with somebody, the Kelly Wilkins, the person I mentioned earlier. And yeah, she just changed my perspective on everything. I was like, oh, that's like this, I can't imagine not being involved in education now. Like, it's amazing. And that was, for me, was what I realized with Kelly, which is really important, is how much like a really good principal matters, like how much that matters to a teacher. And I've actually gotten arguments with one teacher in particular that I know, and him and I are good friends. He wrote a post years ago saying that schools don't need principals because they suck, right? And they just wreck everything. And I remember him writing that. I'm like, why would you write that? It's like, because they don't need it. I said, you're writing that from your perspective because you don't like your principal. I said, I don't even know if you don't like your principal, but I know you don't like your principal because you wrote that post. Yeah. And so that's what that's telling me. And he's like, no, this is what I believe. We don't need principals. And then years later, he's like, yeah, I got a really good principal. I've changed my mind, because it does change your perspective. And I'm not saying I'm not saying any of my principals prior as a teacher were bad or anything like that. She was just so good. Like, she was amazing that it just, the things, like I actually remember I was like chaperoning a dance and I had to do something. I was like cleaning up, and it was like a Friday night. And I like remember I was like sweeping the floor. This is the weirdest thing. And I was just like stopped and like, how is she getting me to do all this stuff? Like, I'm like, it's not even that I'm doing it. Like, I'm gladly doing it. Like, I like, you wouldn't find me doing anything after school. Right. And I'm like, just like so excited to be, you know, I was just like, what is this, you know, witchcraft that's happening? What is she doing to me that I actually want to be here? And I just remember that. And it just, she had such an impact on me. It was really profound. And I like, she empowered me so much that I really want to do that for other people. I just hopefully have a percentage of the impact that she had on the profession.
I guess when there is that connection, I don't think it has to do with, he or she is a principal, right, and I'm a teacher and I need to listen to the captain. Yeah. When you have that connection, when you take the time to connect with the people on your team, in your school or whatnot, it makes it easier for you to do those things, to do like, I don't understand why I'm sweeping, but I am. But it's all about those connections. Yeah. Now, like, there's been a lot of talk about the pandemic and how the connections in some cases are worse or better. How has the past year influenced connections when it comes to education? I don't want to say teaching, but just in education in general, between admin, students, teachers. How has that affected it?
Well, I think people are starting to hopefully value it more. And just something that I really try to think about. So I have the privilege to be able to do keynotes, speak to groups, and I now have the privilege to do it literally from where I'm sitting right now, like at home, wearing slippers right now, wearing shorts. I love it. My feet are never sore from wearing dress shoes I hate. Like little things like that. I appreciate it, right?
Yeah.
And I've always been a big, relationships are the central core of what we do in education. And I usually try to pop on early when I, do these sessions. And I got this like beautiful little soundboard with me. I'm sure you've seen me use it before. And right.
Yeah.
Shout out to the podcast.
Right? Yes.
Like everything.
That
right?
I've heard. I've heard.
So so I use it, right?
Yeah.
So I actually will go in early, play some music.
Yeah.
And, you do a little name that tune before the session starts, have like a little meme check-in, all this stuff, right? Which is very similar to when I was, doing speaking in person. I have like awesome music playing. I'd be at the front of an auditorium welcoming people as they enter the space. And they're like, who is this guy standing here welcoming us? Oh, he's the speaker. Oh, okay. So I would do like little
I remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. And so like that was really important to me. So I was like, how do I do this in a virtual environment? And for me, like if I speak for an hour, I was spending like 15 minutes trying to like make connections with people. Like I'm just trying to like build that, because if I build connections and you actually care about me and I care about you, you're going to be more invested in the 45 minutes. Exactly. If I speak for 60 and you don't know that, then you might not listen for 2, right? And that's I think the connection. Now on the other side of this too, Dean Sharesky, I'm pretty sure you know Dean Sharesky. Dean Sharesky's in Moose Jaw. Dean Sharesky wrote a really great post, and he's someone I really look up to. And he said, when we get back to like conferences, to events, we have to spend more time like letting people just connect with each other, just having people like, because like I can get what people are realizing, I can get content virtually, right? If I just want content, I can go on YouTube, I can do this. Yeah. But when we're in person, we have to make that special. And I think a lot of times when we did in-person events, and I tried my hardest never to be like this, but I think I would fight with organizers quite a bit about this, is that, hey, we need some time to like, can you give people like a 30-minute break after my keynote instead of the 10-minute, like go to the bathroom as quick as possible, rush to your next session. If one person goes over 2 minutes, they're going to leave my session early. Why don't you give them 30 minutes just to talk to each other? Because everyone says, if you've been in education for 10 plus years, I guarantee there was some conference. If I asked you what was the best part, you said the conversations in the hallway with my colleagues. Just talking to people is great. But then we don't build that time in. And so I really appreciated Dean said that. And shout out to Moose Jaw. Yeah, just had to give a shout out to Moose Jaw.
I think I've watched maybe like 3 or 4 of your podcasts because time right. is something that sometimes does not exist. And I'm focusing on other stuff because it's a podcast. You listen and all of a sudden it's like that wakes me up.
Air horn.
The air horn wakes you up. It's like, do you need a soft wake up alarm or an air horn? It's like,
no. No, I got some like for the sad moments.
You're just replete in memes.
I got everything.
You're just replete in memes. It's the only thing.
That's how we talk.
So I'm just going to end because we've got about 10 minutes left.
Got it.
Because I don't want to push you too far. I don't want to hear advice for teachers. For teachers. What's your biggest or best advice for students?
What's my biggest advice?
Or your best advice? Best advice for students.
Yeah. Okay. For me, and honestly, I actually have long gone the path of giving advice for teachers. I don't do that. I talk about my own learning. Yeah. And I let you figure out what you want from it. Yeah. That to me is really important because and I was just actually having this conversation with somebody that I don't really talk about education. I talk about learning. And if you think I can't learn, then that's an issue, right? Like if you think I can't understand learning, because it's important in all facets of our world.
Yeah.
For me, as for students, I think that one of the things I was basically taught as a child and was like put into my head is you must go to college. You have to go to college. That is the way. That is the way that you build a better life. And it was partly because of my school. It was hugely because of my parents. I know this. Okay. And it was just something that I was kind of taught. And I actually see this message. Now, that's not the advice, by the way.
I know.
Right?
I see where you're going. I see where you're going.
I don't want anyone cutting this off and say, George said all kids must go to college, right? So I actually see this too. I travel a lot in the United States, or I traveled a lot in the United States when I was allowed 100 meters from my house. So yeah, the one of the things I saw, and I was like always kind of weirded out about this, I'm just thoughtful of this stuff. I don't think anyone does anything with ill intent. I always assume positive intent. So I would see every teacher would have like where they went to college, and it would be like out on their door. And it's like kind of subliminal message. College is the way. College is the way. College is, this is what successful people do. And I think for me, what I would love for students is find success in a way that is meaningful to you. You define that for yourself. People do not define success for you. That could be success in your connections that you have with your family and friends. That could be that could be success in monetary, if that's what you're into. It could be success in career path, but you have to find that for yourself and embrace the opportunities that you have today that I didn't have 28 years ago. And even with my own daughter, she's 4.5 years old. I mentioned earlier, I love basketball shoes. She likes basketball shoes because her dad likes basketball shoes. She also loves YouTube, and she wants to be a YouTuber. Her and I do unboxing videos together.
Nice.
And we do this because it's something her and I can do together. I'm modeling something to her, but I know she's interested in it. I know she might want to do that. I never want to be the reason my kid doesn't do something, right? And so if she says to me, Dad, I want to be a YouTuber, that's the path for me, then I would say, okay, how do we make that work? How can I support you? How do we do this? It wouldn't be after you're done college, you can explore that, right? After you do this. And so I think to me, I had spent 6 years getting a 4-year teaching degree. Part of the reason that it took 6 years is because I went to college not knowing what I wanted to do because I felt I had to go to college. And so like that's a pretty, and those 6 years took me 15 years to pay off, right? So like it probably would have been easier if I could have cut 2 of those years off to some extent, and I'm not discouraging anyone from going to college, because if you want to be a teacher, you can't do that through YouTube. You still got to go to college. You got to do that. So just find the path that makes sense to you where you can find success. And it's one of the things I'm not trying to give advice to teachers, but when I work with students and I work with schools, one of the things I want conversations to happen in schools that we actually help kids figure out what success is to them, not define it for them. You will be successful if you do these things I've determined will make you successful. That's not how you might be successful. I might be successful, yet our definitions can be totally different on what that means.
So. And the final question.
Yeah.
Greatest basketball player of all time, Kobe or Michael?
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. It's Michael Jordan.
Okay.
That's not even close. And even, who said that? Kobe Bryant said that. Kobe Bryant said, I would not exist if it wasn't for Michael. I did everything he did. So who do I love more?
Yeah.
I'm a Kobe guy.
Okay.
But I love Michael Jordan. So I have watched The Last Dance, all 10 episodes. I have watched it probably 10 times over. It is so good. And it's just like, you can't see behind me, but all I got is actually an interesting question you asked me. All I have behind me, I'm not showing you, is a wall of Kobe and Jordan shoes.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Different like models that I bought And then when I got them, I'm like, I can't wear these. I can't.
No,
I can't
no,
wear
no,
them.
no.
They're
They're collectibles.
Yeah,
They're
I can't.
collectibles.
He has so much knowledge, experience, ideas to share. I could have spent the entire evening talking about not just education, just life in general. I hope you enjoyed this. Hit the like, subscribe button if you haven't already. Go check out George Couros' podcast. It is super fascinating. I will put the link in, what happens like underneath like my chin and my neck. And on that note, folks, have yourselves a lovely day.